Hey everyone. What follows is a short reading of a snippet from Nothing More, Nothing Less by Jason M. Waltz, appearing in the Raconteur Press anthology Blades Black Magic. Hope it inspires. The serving goer was quick, sliding a full plate of venison, quartered onion, and hot bread across his table in moments. He studied the other duos, each of whom seemed caught up in whatever conversations they had begun. Caught up and relaxed. He sensed no undercurrent of pending violence here this night. Perhaps he could finally relax a bit himself. Another glance at the hooded figure only revealed the frail and weathered state of the pale hands clasped about the head of the cane, an olden one, familiar to the innkeepers, and sleeping near the fire's warmth, Coughran surmised. He shrugged and quaffed his drink. Then he smiled and settled in for an evening of ales, which was why he had not noticed the wisps of living blackness descending upon the room until it grew much darker. Now that he had, he realized a sense of wrongness also pervaded the inn. The air felt sticky and sluggish, the sounds of conversation and the barkeep washing mugs oddly muted. Then the first scream rang out. Both men at one of the tables jumped to their feet, swords half drawn. The heads of the other two and Coughran's own jerked toward the sound. Tears coursed down the cheeks of the young girl who stood transfixed, staring at her outstretched arm in horror. Two shoots of the twisting smoke held her arm suspended between them. The diaphanous threads seemed almost to caress her flesh even as they traced ink-black lines upon it. Coughran swore he saw through the smoke, yet also saw it etch the girl's skin. Faint wisps of heat rose from the wild script. He shook his head, trying to clear ale-impaired eyesight. One of the upright men finished pulling his sword free and did not hesitate to swipe its edge through the gossamer strands. They parted, as if a cloud of steam waved apart by a hand, and the girl's arm dropped free to her side. Coughran saw that the etchings did not disappear. She scampered behind the counter to her father's side, rubbing furiously at her damaged arm. The strands of the dark smoke the swordsman had disrupted twisted about and multiplied as they turned toward the man.
"Sorcery!"
he exclaimed and stumbled backward. Both of the other men stood then with swords drawn. Black tendrils crisscrossed the room, beginning to look so much like cobwebs Coughran momentarily searched the rafters and darker corners for scuttling spiders. So far, only he, the barkeep, and the hooded man had not armed themselves. Coughran looked to the fireplace and saw that the man still apparently slumbered, and that none of the eerie black smoke wended near him. He did not consider the oddity of that and dismissed the man as he focused on the sorcerer's assault.
"To all the hells with sorcery!"
he spat. To his mind, there could be no other answer. He glanced at the barkeep.
"Can you swing a weapon?"
he demanded. The wide-eyed man solemnly nodded and stooped to the side. When he stood again, he held a great war axe. Pushing the girl behind him, he stood between her and the encroaching sorcery. Another cry echoed, and everyone jumped. A strand of the thick smoke had drooped from the ceiling and ensnared the head of one of the swordsmen. It tightened as he struggled, still to Coughran's eyes not quite cohesive enough to do what it did, yet definitely solid enough to choke the man. The more he struggled, the tighter the noose grew, thickening as it began to shoot strands of its black substance over his chest and face. The rest of the occupants stared in shock as the man's flesh smoked where the dark threads twisted and warped him. His skin was quickly covered in writhing tendrils like moving tattoos. Even as they spread, they thickened, their smokiness vanishing into dense ropes. The man's body was jerked off its feet, his swollen tongue snipped in twain by sudden rictus. The girl gasped as the tip of the tongue bounced down his chest to finally slap wetly against the floor. Coughran roared in anger then as he surged to his feet. With one hand and his upward push, he hurled the table away straight at the dangling man. The flat face of the heavy wooden object struck the body and sent it tumbling across the room. Body and table smashed through a few other tables before slamming to a halt against the pile of them, the man's body pinned beneath them all. The tumult sent the other three men into action. With a few words between them, the lone man joined the other two, and all stood back to back in a three-sided wedge, weapons high, yet wavering between them and the expanding webs. Coughran could see the fear in their faces and shaking hands. He did not yet know what they faced, but he had stood before sorcerer's foes before, and yet lived, so he knew it possible.
Swallow your fear,
He shouted.
chew on it, don't choke on it. There are pox from every hell upon sorcerers, but this I know, they bleed.
His grin was ferocious.
And whatever bleeds dies, dogs.
A dry chuckle from behind him followed his tirade. Coughran spun about to see the hooded Olden at the fire had finally raised his head. Chips of stormy gray pierced the darkness underneath the hood, but he could see nothing more of the face. Other than lifting his head, the man had not changed his position.
You mock!
Coughran asked. A feeble voice coughed answer.
Oh, not so much you, Grand Warrior. I fear I laugh but at impending death.
The head dipped to the room.
Who are we to stand before this evilness?
The man shook his head back and forth.
No, I am afraid here is where lives end and new beginnings start. Steel against sorcery. Ha!
Coughran snarled.
My steel has bested sorcery and sorcerer many a time. Hide in your chair and let the better men save you.
He spun back toward the others.
Ignore this old fool. Warriors do not die on their backs, weak-kneed and pissing in their boots. Be scared. Just don't be afraid. The first is a temporary feeling. Don't be ruled by it.
He spat over his shoulder toward the Olden.
I only fear what I'll miss, what I'll leave on the table.
He laughed then, loud and long, and chased away what little fear he may have held. The last of his inebriation fled with it.
Or I'll throw the table at it!
Now he drew his sword and jumped between the fireplace and the encroaching darkness.